Welcome everybody. Welcome to Book Talk Season 3, Episode 6. Today we have Shubham Pandey with us. Shubham will be discussing the drunkard's walk. Uh, some things about Shubham, the presenter. Shubham has been one of the sort of leading spokesperson of the, not exactly spokesperson, one of the prized speaker at this book club. He has given us insight around how humanity has worked, how debt works, how current today he's gonna, I guess, talk about how randomness works in the real world. Shubham, over to you.
So this book is called The Drunkard's Walk, which deals with like the role of randomness in our lives. It's about what randomness is and the way we make choices when we are confronted with randomness or uncertainty. So the book is written by like a guy who was a quantum physicist in Max Planck Institute, but he quit in 1980s to become an author and a screenwriter. So that was his history, and he wrote this book I think in 2000s when like he started thinking about the randomness and like all the aspects of it. So first I'll start with basically about what our intuition entails when we are faced with probabilities, like how unintuitive probability is for us. So I will take an example. So he took an example. For example, let's say you see a tail behind a tree bark in the forest that you are there. Like you are a hunter gatherer and you see a tail behind that tree. Now there is a certain probability that that tail is of a wild animal, and there is a certain probability that that tail is of an animal which is not harmful to you. Let's say that probability is like, so that probability also depends on hundreds of different factors. For example, what is the general probability of wild animals being there in that area? What is the probability of those kind of environmental conditions supporting a wild animal being there? What is the probability that a wild animal roams around during this time of the day? There are like different tons of different variable which combine and probably give you a true probability of that there is a chance that there is a wild animal only 20% of the times. Okay, there's only 20% of the times that the chance is there. So ideally your brain should have computed that there is a 20% chance that a wild animal could be there, and now I have to take a decision whether I want to run away from it or not. But due to evolutionary factors, what how we think is we want to survive. Like for us, even if there is a 20% chance of it being a wild animal, we would just run away, because even if 1 in 5 cases we die, we don't want to do that. So that's why we always have that intuition of confusing probability with accuracy. Like we always want to know what is the exact thing that is happening. We always want to know what is causing that incident, and with 100% surety. That's why we always like ignore the probability part of it. Like we always are making sure that we want to survive. So irrespective, even if there is a 5% probability that it's a tiger, I will run, because even that 5% probability is too much for me. And we don't even think rationally that it's a 5% probability. Our brain just presents that 5% probability as a near certainty. Like it just tells you that you have to run. You don't know why you're running. Like you don't know that the probability is 5% or the probability is 50%. You just know that you have to run. So intuitively we have a bad grasp of probabilities and statistics. I'll take some examples which like will uh, portray like this aspect of it. So for example, you have had probably ate on the roadside, like a roadside vendor. You have had one thing and it gave you food poisoning. So now you think that eating on the roadside vendor with the roadside vendor is unhygienic and I shouldn't eat it throughout my life, and you make a rule for yourself that I'm not going to eat anything that is selling on the roadside. But this is a good probability if you want to have a 100% chance that you wouldn't get food poisoning, because even like the one time that you got food poisoning, it was from a roadside vendor. But when you look at the data as to how rare it is to get a food poisoning when you are eating from a roadside vendor, when a whole population is eating from a roadside vendor, you'll figure out that irrespective of whether you have got a food poisoning by that, your chances of getting food poisoning again are close to nil. So we always let our experiences define probabilities or for us, which are often wrong and which are often like non-intuitive, which are often like for us it's intuitive but which are not rational. And then given our intuition for probabilities, I'll basically go through how we as a society evolved different like probability and statistics concepts to like go through our lives and to face different things. So, so for example, like there are different examples. So for example, I'll give you, suppose let's say you write a book, you write a manuscript for a book and you submit it to different publishers, and then uh, all of the publishers reject those books. What will you think after that rejection? Because you don't know anything about probability, you only think about causation rather than correlation. You will think that ki, probably I'm not that good, like that book is not that good, and that's why they rejected it. Five publishers can't be wrong together. But then he gets in examples from the history that the same thing happened to the Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, the same thing happened to Animal Farm by George Orwell, the same thing happens to most of the John Grisham's book. The first Harry Potter book was rejected by 9 publishers. Like, so if these people, John Grisham or J.K. Rowling, would have thought that after the first 5 rejections that they were not as good like as the other people who are getting their books published, they wouldn't have gone forward to become like the most celebrated authors of all time. It's just that we can't fathom that uh, a set of pattern or a set of failures or a set of successes can be affected by randomness rather than innate ability or something like that. So probably we could define it in a way that the uh, uh, propensity of J.K. Rowling's book being published or being like her total ability is probably like, let's say 60%. Like she has a chance of succeeding 60% given how good of an author she is. She could still face rejection for the first 5 attempts and still be very good later in the end. Like it's, so we always think about those that one individual event in seclusion to determine whether we are good or not. And that's like the probability is not defined that way. Probability is always defined in a sequence of events and uh, in a multiple trials atmosphere that's there. So for example, like in Thinking Fast and Slow, if people would have read Thinking Fast and Slow, Kahneman talks about how he got into defining human biases and heuristics. He says that he was taking a session of different pilot instructors who from the Israeli army, and he was asking them, just tell me what works and what doesn't. Like in terms of when you define the performance of the pilot, what makes a pilot perform better and what makes a pilot perform worse. So for example, let's just for the sake of data say that every pilot has equal capability of, we are defining his capability on like a level of 0 to 100, and we say that a professional pilot will have a capability of 80. Let's say a general mean is 80. Now when most of the times when he goes for when he flies the plane, he or she would lie between, let's say, 75 to 85. That is, there is a certain probability that in most of the cases he'll lie between 75 to 85. Now that one time when he performs really well and goes to 90, and there is this one time that is a rare event when he performs really badly and goes to 70. Now these instructors were asked, what, how do you handle these swings? So the instructors said कि हमें, like whatever we have seen in our history and in our like sessions, what we feel is कि when we praise them for when they perform at 90, they do worse after that praise, and when we scold them when they perform at a 70, they do better. So just with this I feel that that instructor said that I feel that scolding works and incentives don't work. But then Kahneman thought that, like, there is, since 70 and 90 are a rare event, the next flight that you take, you are again bound to go between 75 and 85. So irrespective whether you give them incentives or irrespective whether you punish them, the next flight will most probably lie between 75 and 85. So we are taking randomness, we are taking randomness, because of randomness he went to 90 or he went to 70, but we are attributing that we made him, by through our scolding, made him go from 70 to 80. So it's basically that we always want to explain the deviation in performance by some external factors, and then we always say that this changed, this changed because this happened. So for example, a lot of when you see in football a team performs badly and the manager is sacked, and then they perform better and the manager is given the credit. No, manager is not to be given the credit. After performing badly, they had to perform better and to come near the mean, because their average is this much, their average performance is good, and after they have performed very well, after they have had a streak, they have to have loss with just by the fact of random events rather than their capabilities or their mistakes, because a lot of factors are out of our control. We always swing from that 80, we always swing between more often between 75 to 85, and a lot of times, a few times between 70 to 90. Now if we are judged on the basis of how much, like, are judged on the basis of the extreme events, how much 90 do we do or how much 70 do we do, that is not the right thing. It's just basically that we have to always come closer to what is our actual performance and have to remove the effect of random variables from our perspective. So this led them to think about how we have an intuition of randomness and how what actually randomness is. So after like establishing this whole like our errors in this intuition of randomness, I will basically go through how overall randomness came forward, like how it was found in terms of history and who found it, who established different concepts and how it was established. Another example is basically in terms of movies. So for example, it's so difficult to predict which movies will do well and which won't, that there has been a lot of examples in the histories. There was this woman called Sherry Lansing, and who ran Paramount Pictures for many years. Under her, they got the Best Picture award for Forrest Gump, Braveheart, and Titanic, like in back to back years. And she was hailed as one of the biggest, one of the best producers of all time. Then her popularity suddenly plunged. She gave a lot of flops, and then she was fired from the Paramount Pictures. Now she was someone let's say, she also was an 80, but she had the luck to give that 90 90 93 times in the first three flights. And then eventually her performance, when it came back to 75 76 80 81, people realized that 90 was a fluke. That 90 was a fluke and she's not as good, but that 90 was also a part of that random variable. There's an opposite case. So there was this another guy who was who called Mark Canton, who worked with Columbia Pictures. So he was very enthusiastic guy. He was like called, when he was called, there was a huge buzz in terms of how he'll change the whole film industry and everything. And the first few years he failed so badly that he was fired after 3 4 years. And then basically the movies that he approved when he before he was fired, they got released next 2 3 years down the line, and they made a run of, they made him post like retrospectively the most successful producer in the history. And those movies were like Men in Black, which made $600 million, Air Force One, which made $300 million, The Fifth Element, which made $250 million, Jerry Maguire, like one of the most successful, Anaconda with like $150 million. The most successful movies of all time resides with the guy who was fired for not being as good in terms of picking the movies. So the random fluctuation. So both the people are opposite. She had a early luck. She was lucky early, and he was unlucky early, and she was unlucky later. He was unlucky. He was lucky later. So our performance always fluctuates. It's just that how we read those fluctuations, how we read those extraordinary performances or extraordinary bad performances, is how our intuitions for probability should be, but it is not currently. So uh, so for example, so let's start with the history of probability. Like uh, the first thing that the first maths that started coming was, so we have found dices and like coin things, references to coin tosses since Indus Valley civilization. Like Greeks used to gamble, Mesopotamia used to gamble. Every civilization that has existed used to gamble and play on dices, but there was no mathematical theory. There was not, even numbers like 1 and 2 didn't exist, but they just knew that this side I'll just wager, and then if my side comes in, then God has chosen me to be lucky in this case, and I will get 2x of my money, or I will get, if it's a dice, I will get 5x of my money. So everything, there was no probability. Even if they were playing dice, there was no probability. They were just thinking that if the God wants, I will find probably uh, 6 in 3 consecutive trials in like a dice, or we will probably not have really bad throws, like we'll probably choose heads and we'll get 3 tails. They always defined the outcome in, not in terms of probability. They didn't think that the probability was 1/6 and evo. They always defined that God is choosing who will get what, and it's always deterministic. It's the God's will that is taking care of everything. And they didn't even have an understanding of, so they didn't even have like the whole numbers were also written by different symbols, so you couldn't do division, you couldn't do multiplication, you couldn't do addition, so it was very difficult for them to uh, do have a probability theory earlier. So the Greeks didn't develop, they were really great at geometry, they developed a really good like geometrical theories and everything, all the planes, all the numbers, like all the x-axis, y-axis we see is from the Greeks. So then when was the next this thing theory of like probability came in was when in Roman Empire. So when Roman Empire came into picture, their problems of their problems were completely different. They wanted to use maths in like practical aspects, so they always had to define. So if they are going for a war on this specific day, they have to determine what would be the probability that it would rain on this specific day, or what would be the probability that the other guy will use this strategy, so I have to use this counter strategy. So whenever you are strategizing, you always have to take care of probabilities and have to define different probabilities of different events, so that you can always have a counter uh, balance, like a counter strategy in that. So Cicero was the first one in like the Roman Empire who asked ki, horoscope was really famous then, like right now also it's famous, but horoscope used to be very famous, and he asked that Roman Empire got slaughtered, like a Roman army got slaughtered last week, 50,000 people died. So how come and those 50,000 would have people from all the horoscopes, how come all those 50,000 people from different horoscopes could die at the same time? That's when he thought about the question of that it's not, horoscope also doesn't fixes things from you, it just gives you a random general outcome, and then basically you see that outcome, and because of your confirmation bias you think that horoscope works. So that was the first utterance of where people started questioning the will of God, and like why things happened, like in what probability and ये but then in until from that time till like 1600s there was not much that changed. There was not much that changed in terms of probability theory. They were like people were still not able to fathom fractions. There were no concept of fractions that existed. There was no like zero also came like on in 400 AD, 200, 300 AD or something like that. There was no symbol for addition, subtraction. They were using Roman numerals, which was very difficult to add and subtract and divide and so until 1500s nothing happened. Ki people were still like on their intuition ki everything happens according to God's will. अगर होना होगा तो हो जाएगा. अभी भी like in our corona cases also people just think that everything happens to God's will, by God's will. होना होगा तो होगा, नहीं होगा होना होगा तो नहीं होगा. They don't consider कि कितनी probability है कि हो जाएगा, कितनी मेरे chances हैं to be a part of the that probability जिनको हो जाएगा ये वो तो it's like it's very non-intuitive. So uh, and then in 1576 there was this man in like Rome called Cardano, and he was really famous at one point. He had created a lock, combinational lock, and a universal joint which is still used in automobiles today. He had published 131 books on like philosophy, medicines, mathematics, and other sciences. So he was the first one who came up with the concept of sample space. So he could come up with the concept of sample space because he had a lot of tools which were available to him. So for example, Indians gave the concept of zero. Indians gave the concept of fractions, and they were the first one to have like a proper arithmetic and numbers theory which he could build upon. So there was a lot of base that was being built by India, and during like Aryabhata's time, 300 to 700 AD to like 1000 AD, maths like prospered like anything in India, which established a base for Cardano to pick this actual probability theory and define things in terms of fractions and uh, how do we define if an event occurs, what is the chance that this will happen in that event. So after building this, he defined the concept of fractional fractions. For example, let's say you have a problem of, let's say you say that someone has two daughters, someone has two childs. What is the probability that if the one child is girl, that the other is also a girl? So when non-intuitively, most of the people will answer that how does it matter if one child is girl? If the one child is girl, the other child also has only 1/2 probability that it will be a boy or a girl. Like how is that information relevant? But when you make a sample space, when you see that how what is the probability of what is the probability of them being a boy and a girl, you will say that boy boy, boy girl, girl boy, girl girl. Now you say that one of them can be a girl, you remove the boy boy, and then you see what is the probability that other one will also be a girl, and it comes out to be like one is a girl, it comes out to be 1 by 3, like can be girl boy boy girl, and so it comes out to be 1 by 3 rather than 1 by 2 that our general assumption is. So he started the concept of ki how should we define the sample space, like the denominator in terms of probability, what should the denominator is, and how do we eliminate from the denominator to get like our actual probability. So for example, this very famous game show that used to happen, like in India it used to be called Khulja Simsim and Evo. So Khulja Simsim, in that game show there used to be one door behind which there used to be a car, and there used to be two doors behind, let's say there is a goat. So the host asks you to pick one door. You pick one door, like any your chance of picking the correct door is 1 by 3. For right now it's 1 by 3. Okay, now what the host does is he opens another door which has a goat. Okay, so he opens another door which has a goat. Now there was this question asked to someone really renowned as to whether, and he asks you whether you would switch now, whether you would switch your door or not, what is the best strategy to go forward. So what is the best strategy? Can anyone like and does anyone have any opinion on whether you should switch your choice or not?
I know the answer, so I'll not say much. I've
Yeah.
seen movie 21.
उसमें this problem comes in कि whether you should switch or whether you shouldn't.
A
So
lot of Ricardo videos.
हाँ, so people don't switch. Like when I thought about कि जब मैं वो देखता था show, तभी लोग switch करते थे कि नहीं करते थे, तो वो भी people didn't used to switch and people just thought that the probability, क्योंकि जब मैंने पहले choose किया था तो भी 1 by 3 था, अभी ऐसा क्या change हो गया कि probability change हो गया? Probability तो 1 by 3 है. जब पहले हुआ तो how is the probability changing? Then वो perspective आया कि when you add information तो तुम्हारा जो sample space है वो reduce होता जाता है and then probability change होती रहती है. तो intuitively हमें नहीं लगता कि वो, but let's say we see the same problem as having 100 doors. 100 डोर हैं, 100 के पीछे में एक there is a car and 99 there are goats. Now you pick one. You're picking the right door has a probability of 1 by 100. Now the host keeps on opening the door with different goats in it, and then he opens 98 doors and shows you the goat. Now when he asks you whether you will switch or not, now when you will you think before switching, you will switch immediately because your door still has 1 by 100 probability and the door that is left has 99 by 100 probability. So when you think that way, when we extrapolate the problem in terms of sample spaces and when we look at problems from different perspectives, we get strategies which are non-intuitive, but the strategies which are more optimistic, like which are more optimal. So, and a lot of people get confused between these strategies. Like there was this mathematician Paul Erdos who was told this problem and he didn't believe, like he say that this is bullshit and I don't want to I can't believe that this is the right strategy, that your probability is changing when an event is like being, when some new information is revealed and everything. Then he was shown by a mathematical simulation that if you choose to switch, you win with 2:1 odds. And then he basically accepted that this is actually like the better strategy is to switch, and you will win twice as often if you switch your door, irrespective of how much you think that you had a psychic ability to pick the right door in the first attempt itself. So uh, a similar thing happened with there was this Canadian lottery. They purchased 500 cars, and they had a list of 2.4 million subscribers. Now they had to choose 500 number out of 2.4 million subscribers, and to their embarrassment, when the numbers came out, one individual had won 2 cars. So they were like mind fucked ki how can, with over 2 million numbers to choose from, there can be like the same guy can be chosen twice at Yevo. And they were like, it became a huge thing as to what is the probability that if we choose 500 people out of 2.4 million, same guy would get chosen twice. This again becomes a problem with this question. I don't know if people would have heard. What is the number of people that have to be there in a room for there to be a more than 50% chance for two people to have the same birthday? Like,
22
can
or
anyone
23.
take a guess?
Yeah, 23.
So if you ask most people, their answer is 180 for example, कि मतलब एक बंदे का हमने establish कर लिया कि उसका बर्थडे ये है, और there is answer either लोग 365 आंसर करते हैं कि 365 लोग होने चाहिए, कुछ लोग आंसर करते हैं 180 होने चाहिए, 180 पे 50% चांस है कि दो लोगों का मैच करेगा. बट दे when they are thinking about this problem, they are looking at कि मेरा बर्थडे मैच होना चाहिए, तब 180 आएगा आंसर. बट when you make different pairs out of 23 people, you make a pair of two, there are so many different permutation and combination that you only need 23 people to for two people to have same birthday, like in terms of same exact birthday, and it's lesser than 23 people. 23 people comes by assuming that birthday is equally likely on any day of the year. But since our birthdays are generally pocketed, September, October have more, and then as it generally happens, so it's lesser than 23 people. But then when you intuitively think that you are sitting in a crowd of 20 people, and where someone tells you that right now there is a more than 50% chance that two people will have the same birthday, you'll always bet against it intuitively, because intuitively that doesn't ever come into your mind that ye ho bhi sakta hai, matlab this is not possible. So the same way wo 2.4 million में 500 लोगों को 500 लोगों में सेम बंदे का नाम दो बार आना had a probability of 5%. It isn't huge, मतलब 5% नहीं होना चाहिए ऐसे, बट ऐसे बहुत सारे लॉटरीज हो रहे हैं, और ऐसे बहुत सारे लॉटरीज हो रहे हैं, तो 1 out of 20 लॉटरी में वो चांसेस हैं कि वो चीज हो. And when we look at that 1 out of 20 lottery in isolation, we feel that ये कैसे हो गया. But when you look at all the hundreds of lotteries going around, and out of those hundreds of lotteries एक में ऐसा होता है, then you'll see that कि it was already predicted कि ऐसा अगर 1000 लॉटरी होंगे तो 5% चांस वाला जो इवेंट है वो होगा ही होगा, like it will be there in 50 of them. So that's why we always we always see events in seclusion. That's what we shouldn't do, and that's when it gets difficult to get our minds to understand these problems of probability and statistics. So now it's 1600s अभी चल रहा है, and they had the concept of sample space. ये छोटे छोटे डाइस के प्रॉब्लम और ये कॉइन टॉसेस के प्रॉब्लम, बॉय गर्ल के प्रॉब्लम, जहाँ पे इक्वल आउटकम होते हैं, वो थोड़े थोड़े उन्होंने सॉल्व कर लिया अभी भी. मतलब पर अभी भी इवेंट की प्रोबेबिलिटी उन्होंने एस्टैब्लिश करी है, सैंपल स्पेस बनाना, उसको एलिमिनेट करना. अभी तक उनको बस इतना पता चला है कि प्रोबेबिलिटी निकालते कैसे हैं, वो फ्रैक्शन कैसे निकालते हैं किसी एक इवेंट की. अभी उन्हें ये नहीं पता दो इवेंट कैसे रिलेट होते हैं, म्यूचुअली इंक्लूसिव एक्सक्लूसिव क्या होता है, ये वो. तो नाउ दे हैव ओनली रीच्ड टिल दैट. इसके बाद क्या था, इन 1600s, in mid 1600s, there was this king, or there was this count or something like that, who asked Pascal. Blaise Pascal was like a renowned mathematician at that time. He asked physicists at that time, he asked him a question. If let's say two players are playing a game, and two players are going to a game, and for example, let's say one player has two players, and the first one to win 10 games wins. So they keep on playing, and the first one who reaches 10 wins. If there is a point that the first guy has won 6 games and the second guy has won 4 games, if we had to stop the game there, how should the payout be distributed? As in, how does an innate ability of a person is determining the actual outcome? Even if so, I'll give you another example. So for example, if there are two teams, one team has a 55% chances of winning the game, the and the other weaker team has 45% chances of winning a game, there would be the weaker team will still win a 7-game series 4 times out of 10. Now when we see them winning 4 times out of 10, we'll feel that ki, we've only seen them winning 4 times out of 10. We'll feel that ki they are better. Like we only see 1 or 2 outcomes of those 7 series. We'll feel that they are better. But as and when you increase the number of observations, number of trials, that's when you realize ki which team is better. So to know which team is better, to know what is the actual probability, you have to increase the number of trials. With small numbers, you always have a chance that random factors are playing a lot more are having a lot more effect than like the players innate ability, which happens a lot in sports, which happens a lot in stock markets and is like even if you have 60% probability, you would still so for example an employee A has beats an employee B on 60% of 100 occasions. Like 60 out of 100 occasions, he always outperforms the employee B. But there is, if we still see that a 5 quarter worth of results between those two employees, there is 1/3 of the time the employee B will perform better than employee A. So that's why it from this conjecture it came out that key we always have to increase the number of observations. That's when only we'll get to know the real probability. We can never get to know like what is the innate probability of something happening until we recognize ki how many observations we should have to know that probability. So then this was what Pascal did. Then later came the question of what is the connection between probability and observed result. For example, when we say that the probability of coming ahead is 2, but then if you do 5 coin tosses and tail comes 5 times, if you are only establishing that probability by observation, if you only observe 5 trials, you'll say that the probability of heads is 100%. Like then your probability will come out to be 100%. You would, if you don't do after 5 and just you consider stop your experiment then and there, you will publish a paper saying that I just did 5 trials and the probability of head came out to be 100% and that is the probability. But that is wrong. Then came out to be how do we establish what is the probability and how do we establish relationship between the observation of that probability and the actual inherent probability. So for example, we knew that डाइस में सब कुछ 1/6 होता है, but when we roll a million die, we will find out that fours might have come out a few thousand times more than sixes, fives might have come out a few thousand times more than fours or ये वो. So does that say anything about the underlying probability, or it's we should keep adjusting our probability according to what our observation is telling us? So here comes into picture Bernoulli. So Bernoulli so everyone would have heard about the term called Bernoulli's trials. So that's when the first thing came about ki we would do repeated observations and then we will establish probability with certain confidence interval. So then Bernoulli came up with his theorem which he called the golden theorem, where let's say we have an example of 100 pebbles, and out of those 100 pebbles in an urn, 60% of the pebbles are white. So he said कि now you tell me कि you think that 60%, you know that 60% is the probability that I will pick up a white pebble. Now you define to me कि what is the confidence interval you want that the probability will come out to be 58% and 62%, and according to that confidence interval I'll tell you the number of trials. So for example, if you want high accuracy, if you want a number to be between 59 and 61, I'll probably tell you to pick pebbles from the urn 10,000 times or a million times. If you say that I can vary my error rate and I will only want my error rate to be lie between 58% and 62%, so that number will keep on reducing. So that comes back to our first abhi pichla wala example, that if you have 5 heads, that doesn't mean that the probability is 5 this thing. So that probability is 5 to 10. If you 100%, you have to establish ki 1/2 probability hogi. Now how many trials do we need to be 99% sure that it will lie between 1.21 and 1.19 and 1.21? That is what he did. So then he started doing Bernoulli's trial wala concept aaya. Now let's, in these trial ka thing, let's apply to the same of to like the story of successes as to how a company's success is related to a CEO's abilities. So let's say we define a CEO's ability that a CEO's chances of succeeding is a good 60%. Like 60%, we assume that it's a good probability of someone's success in an environment which have a lot of variables he can't control. So he has a 60% chance of winning each year. So now he has a 60% chance, and let's say all the Fortune 500 CEOs are equally able, and they each have 60% chance of doing well in a quarter and doing bad in a quarter. If we take this variable, we will find out that 333 of those CEOs would have exhibited performance that didn't reflect their true abilities, and there would be 1 in 10 CEOs who would have 5 winning years in a row and 1/10 who would have 5 losing years in a row. even after having exactly same abilities. So here, that is the concept that we can't seem to like fathom as a society, that someone's performance in like 5 trials, 10 trials, 20 trials, 50 trials doesn't reflect the underlying probability in as accurate ways as we think it would be. And these things come, these variables affect more in things like sports and businesses and like other things, and like stock markets and you, because there we take the probability of being right yearly, and there are only a few years where you gauge the probability, where you gauge the performance of someone. And when there are only few trials, it is the probability that you performed extraordinary by luck is a lot higher than that you had an innate ability to perform uh, better. Or there would be, if there was an innate ability that gave you extraordinary, I'm not saying that there's no ability, but then the innate ability, if that is the only reason that you could have performed better, there would be a lot of, there would be CEO of Blockbuster and like CEO of Kodak and everyone doing really well because they had an. So he also talks about the Bill Gates story. Like Bill Gates, we think that okay, he's a billionaire, he must have thought, ventured into this thing to become, to have a ambition of being the richest person in the world, that he always took decisions that led him to that. But Bill Gates also had a moment of randomness, where if IBM wouldn't have fucked up in terms of gauging what his software meant and what it could do in the future. So Bill Gates was to sell his software to IBM for some like meager $100,000, $200,000, and then they said ki we will take it because we don't believe that it will work, because OSs were not a thing that time. They said that we will not take it, we will not buy it, but we'll keep it at a royalty, like we'll have a royalty agreement, and that's how we'll keep it, and you would keep the rights. And just that fuck up of IBM made Bill Gates the richest person on the world, or otherwise he would have been just another tech millionaire and entrepreneur. So it's not like he's different from those entrepreneurs who made 20 million or 30 million, who exited their startups and sold their startups for 20 million, 30 million. Or he's not some superhuman who was always destined to have a valuation of $100 billion. We always see in that terms ki if someone has done well, it's because of his abilities. If someone is doing badly, it's because of his bad abilities, or he's not good at something. But what probability theories and what statistics and numbers tell us is that even after things being random, even after everything going right, you always have a lot of luck in terms of how extraordinarily good or how extraordinarily bad you perform. If you're performing average, your average is good, people will still uh, say that your ability is good, but it's basically the success and failures are defined a lot more by random variables. So then after that Bernoulli's thing, but we can't, like after that Bernoulli's thing, Bernoulli established ki we define base probabilities, and then we validate that base probability by different observation. But he still didn't know how we establish the base probability. We could by in like dices and coin toss, we could always intuit कि अच्छा 1/2 होती होगी, 1/2 1/6 होती है, क्योंकि वहाँ पे equal probabilities है. बट ही नो वन न्यू कि प्रोबेबिलिटीज एक्चुअली निकालनी कैसे चाहिए, और एक चीज की प्रोबेबिलिटी दूसरी चीज की प्रोबेबिलिटी को अफेक्ट कैसे करता है. देयर कम्स बेस. सो इन लाइक 1700 there is a concept of conditional probability that came in. So I'll give you an example. So for example, you are talking to a friend, and that friend is replying to your text late. Okay, so now you will think that the probability of, you will think that ki that person doesn't like you by asserting it with कि the probability of someone replying late if he doesn't like you is seems pretty high. Like everyone would agree that if the probability, if someone doesn't like you, he would probably reply late to you. Like that probability is really high. But you are confusing it with a different probability. The probability that you should consider is that कि what is the probability of them not liking you if they're replying late. So then you define कि what if that friend is a generally slow replier. It changes the probability of them not liking you. If someone is a fast replier and he's not replying, versus if someone is a slow replier and he's not replying, then both the probability are different, and both probabilities say different things about you. So in the second case, if someone is actually a slow replier, you, when you consider the right if, you get to know that probably it's the chances that he doesn't like me is only like 20%, rather than in the first case you would have thought that ki the chances are 80-90%. So we always confuse conditional probability. That's when Bayes uh, came into picture. If he came into ki what does observation say, or two dependent observations say about the underlying probability. If like I say ki 60 out of 100 people have been cured by drugs, and if this and the probability around currently according to me is 60 0.6, if the next person gets cured or the next person doesn't get cured, how does this probability changes? So there the concept of conditional probability came in. Today his analysis is widely like employed in all science and industry. Like insurance rates are determined by that level. Like for example, we take the factors of unit of driving time, your personal probability to consider to take out your personal probability of dying through an with an accident, like, or you having like different 0, 1 or 2 or more accidents. That's how insurance companies use Bayesian model to determine. So after some time his models were started being used like all over the place, and he bought the concept for false positives and false negatives. For example, if you're taking a test for a disease which is rare, the irrespective of whether that test gives whether so there are two tests, one test for rare disease and one test for a non-rare disease. Both the tests have only 1% chance of false positive, and if you get tested for both the disease and you get positive in both, you still have you still have a lot higher false positive chance in the first test rather than the second test, because that disease itself is so rare that your sample space that the conditional probability reduces so much that you still would probably be. So for example, in case of HIV, if you're heterosexual and if you're homosexual and if you are a drug user, even if you come out positive, your chances of being actually positive are a lot higher than if you are a normal person who isn't a drug abuser and who is like heterosexual. Because when you look at conditional probability, your sample set and your the bases are completely changes and give you a different perspective, which we also are not intuitive in terms of gauging that probability. Are like justice systems are flawed, are like medical systems are flawed. No one thinks in terms of these perspective ki how different probabilities are affecting each other. आफ्टर दैट बेसिकली की प्रोबेबिलिटीज अब आ गई कि अभी हमें पता भी चल गया कि अंडरलाइन प्रोबेबिलिटी कैसे निकालनी जाती है. अब हमारा है कि हम कुछ ऑब्जर्वेशन से वो प्रोबेबिलिटी निकाल रहे हैं. नाउ वी आर थिंकिंग कि वो ऑब्जर्वेशन कैसे करें. देन केम द थ्योरी ऑफ मेजरमेंट्स. So the theory of measurements brings it to, let's say you gave an exam, you wrote an essay, and another guy wrote another essay. You got 90 in that essay and someone else got 92 in that essay. Does the difference between 90 and 92 as significant to tell you that one essay is better than that? Like how is the subjective uh, quality of essay portrayed by the measurement of it? That's what the next problem the humanity started working on. Ki how is, like, if you give something a number, how is that number corresponding to the innate good or bad abilities of that object? So then they started figuring out that whenever you make measurements, there is an error. Whenever you make a measurement, there is always an error in terms of, there is always an error which comes by random factors that is always there. So for example, if you hold an elections at some place and you do manual counting of those votes, you count 10 times, and all those 10 times you will have different count number that will come in the end. So if it shouldn't be ki those counting should also be then they started seeing ki the error that is coming, it's following a kind of a distribution. That error is also having its own variables. Ki error will be between 5 to 10% has this much probability, error will be between 10 to 20% it's been this much probability. That's when they started figuring out ki there is an inherent error concept in when we take measurements. So that's when they started seeing ki measurements mein, they started collating that there is error can be more than it's the same thing ki wo error tha hamare jo pehla wala example tha, in our example of like the pilots having an 80 wala ability part, that 90 is an erroneous measurement, that 70 is an erroneous measurement according to this theory of the measurement theory. So अभी उन्होंने ऐसा देखना चालू किया कि अब लेट्स सी कि कितना एरर्स होते हैं और वो एरर आते किस लिए. Then they started looking at people. For example, they did experiment with like a group of, let's say, wine enthusiasts. So they said ki wine enthusiasts used to give a number to their wines, which was very famous at one point. They used to give 90, 91, 92, and those numbers used to increase the sales of those wines a lot. Those same wine experts were made to drink white wine dyed with red color and red wine, and they thought that both were the same wine. When they were given wines ranging from $10 to $1,000, they rated $10 wine as the best than $1,000. So there they realized that our measurements are a factor of the erroneous perception that we have, and that will always be there. No one knows whether we would ever be able to make perfect measurements, or it will solve the whole world. Like, it will be completely weird if we know that. But what we realized that while taking measurements also, it was acting like weird because it was affected by our. So Manish, ऐसा भी हुआ था एक experiment कि people who were chosen by कि तुम कोक प्रेफर करते हो कि पेप्सी प्रेफर करते हो, एंड देयर ड्रिंक्स वर स्विच्ड कि कोक वाले को पेप्सी दे दिया गया, पेप्सी वाले को कोक दे दिया गया, एंड देन दे वर आस्क्ड whether what you drank was what you preferred or not. 21 out of 30 of those people agreed that what they drank was coke or pepsi when they were wrong. मतलब they even after those people, when अगर तुम कोक को पेप्सी की बोतल में डाल देते हो और पेप्सी को कोक की बोतल में डाल देते हो, even most experts can't recognize the difference between those two. So our measurements are always subjected to a lot of errors. Where here comes the concept of bell curve आता है फिर उसके बाद कि जो सारे errors को जब उन्होंने plot किया तो एक bell curve बन गया. सिमिलर वे में जो हमारा बेल कर्व जो स्टार्टिंग वाले एग्जांपल में था, वहां पे 80 पे सबसे ज्यादा पीक आएगा और वो 90 पे एक वो आएगा रेयर इवेंट आएगा और 70 पे रेयर इवेंट आएगा. तो ऐसा बेल कर्व बनेगा. और फिर हम सोचते हैं जब 70 वाला आता है तो हम स्कोल्ड करते हैं, तो इट गोज बैक टू 75 और 80, और जब 90, बट वो बेल कर्व भी बता रहा है कि वो दोनों रेयर हैं. वो दोनों ऐसा नहीं होगा कि 50 बार आएगा 90, that you can consistently be a 90 or you can consistently be a 70. If you are consistently a 90 through a long set of data, probably your ability was not 80 but it was 85, मतलब ऐसा. So then they got into bell curves and then they started plotting in around 1600 1700s. They started plotting different numbers on these bell curves, and they found out that the same distribution that is followed by the errors is followed by our humans also. So for example, they plotted height, they plotted age expectancy, they plotted statistics on drunkenness, insanity, crime, accidents, stabbings, kicks, punches, everything. Like drowning, how many cases do happen, how much crime do happen with guns, and how much with swords, how much with knives. They started plotting everything, and then they found out that a lot of things follow this normal distribution and found bell curves. So a lot of times in college I always used to think कि ये जो एग्जाम हो रहा है इसमें बेसिकली सब लोग हमेशा बेल कर्व भी कैसे बन रहा है. मतलब बेल कर्व ऐसे छोटा भी हो सकता है, वाइड भी हो सकता है, बट वो बेल कर्व, व्हाई कांट एवरी स्टूडेंट गेट इक्वल मार्क्स. देन आई थॉट कि अच्छा कुछ लोगों के एम्बिशंस अलग अलग हैं. देयर आर डिफरेंट रैंडम वेरिएबल्स कि एक बंदे को आगे जाके पढ़ना है, पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन करना है, तो ही इज स्टडीइंग, ही विल प्रोबब्ली गेट मोर मार्क्स. सम गाय डजंट गिव अ फक, ही इज लाइक drinking and doing whatever and gaming, and he doesn't give a fuck, so he'll lie on this end, he'll lie on that end. But even if let's say we do an experiment where we tell them ki now you have to you all have to think like that guy who wants to do a postgraduate because your life depends on that. Even after that there will be a bell curve with slightly like lesser depth, but it will be there. So after that they realize that all the performances, like everywhere you see, you find like normal distribution in terms of the actual outcomes that come out. Not all things form normal distribution, but a lot of things do. Like income in distribution doesn't form normal distribution because 20% of the people occupy 80% of the wealth. So there are a lot of cases where this is not followed also, but most of the phenomena they figured out ki follow normal distribution in a lot of ways. So after this, now they started like putting in different statistics and different numbers into how things vary. So for example, there was this very famous story about कि there was this guy who used to get bread from his bread maker, and वो bread में थोड़ा थोड़ा वो होता था, like there used to be slight deviations from that की measurement. वो 100 ग्राम bread मंगाता था, कभी 98 होता था, कभी 102 होता था, और उस टाइम ये थ्योरी आई थी कि error तो होता ही है. अब उसका ब्रेड वाला बोला कि एरर तो होता ही है, तो रैंडम एरर है. उसने फिर ये डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन लगा के देखा तो ही रियलाइज कि जब नीचे की साइड वाला थोड़ा बेल कर्व में नीचे की साइड थोड़ा ज्यादा बन रहा है, मतलब रैंडम नहीं है, लाइक देयर इज ही couldn't apply that formula where you get to know whether it follows normal distribution or not, and most others follow normal distribution. He figured out कि वो random नहीं है. Then he confronted that guy, then वो पुलिस गया and ये वो, and then they figured out कि he was actually not doing like random this thing. There is another law which says that there's this thing called Benford's law. So Benford's law says that ki for all naturally occurring numbers, one appears as the most significant digits 30% of the times. Can you imagine, like can you fathom this in terms of ki any natural occurring number, you take the population of the countries, you take the price of all stocks in the whole global stock markets ever, and you pick any, you find 10,000 trees and take the number of leaves on those trees. Any naturally occurring number that you take, when you write those numbers, 30% of the times one will occur as the first digit, 18% of the times two will occur as the first digit, and only 5% of the times will nine occur as the first digit. Like it is so insane that it's like very difficult. So IRS follows.
Is this a zip progression?
नो प्रोग्रेशन कैसे होगा, मतलब वो ही नो, इट्स बेसिकली लोगों को ऐसा लगता है, मतलब बहुत ही डिफिकल्ट है इसको इंट्यूटिवली सॉल्व करना, मतलब इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू थिंक कि क्यों होगा ऐसा. मतलब अगर मान लो तुम बोलते हो कि ग्रोथ रेट स्लो होती जाती है उस वजह से हो रहा है, बट ग्रोथ रेट अगर तो ग्रोथ रेट स्लो भी हो रही है तो वैसा होगा कि वन बाय, मतलब वन क्यों होगा मोस्ट प्रोबेबल, व्हाई कैन नाइन बी मोस्ट प्रोबेबल, मतलब वो चीज किसी को भी नहीं पता है. लाइक इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू गेज, मतलब वो पूरा लॉग्स के मैथ्स के लॉग्स में जाना पड़ता है टू नो कि क्यों. तो IRS, लाइक इट्स वेरी फेमस लॉ दैट इज यूज्ड बाय IRS टू आइडेंटिफाई टैक्स फ्रॉड्स. सो व्हाट दे डू इज कि लेट्स से यू आर रनिंग अ फ्रॉड कंपनी, ठीक है, तुमने इन्वेस्टर से पैसे ले लिए $50 मिलियन, अब तुम अपने यॉट वॉट पे पैसे खर्च कर रहे हो, बट तुमने अकाउंटिंग बुक्स तुम कुक कर रहे हो. अब जब तुम अकाउंटिंग बुक्स कुक कर रहे हो तो तुम नंबर्स खुद से बना के लिख दे रहे हो उसमें. अब तुम खुद से बना के लिख दे रहे हो, तो इसलिए मैंने बोला दिस लॉ इज फॉलोड बाय ऑल नेचुरली अकरिंग नंबर्स. और जब तुम खुद से बना के लिख दे रहे हो तो योर नंबर्स वोंट फॉलो दिस लॉ, एंड दैट्स हाउ IRS catches a lot of money launderers. It's so insane to think about that, if like having generating random numbers also has some order in it, which we can't have an intuition about how one occurs 30% of times, how five occurs. So if we are making random numbers, this law will not be followed, but if we are picking random numbers from nature, this law will be followed. So how do we define randomness again becomes a big question as to how, like if there are patterns in numbers, how do you define randomness? Like it's very difficult to see where it leads to. So then these laws were there ki dheere dheere they started determining ki overall how a population lies on a distribution, like how that population lies on a curve. ठीक है, उसके बाद what happened was, wait, let me see. So then in like around 1800s there was this cousin of Darwin's who led the next big leap in terms of probability and statistics, where he just said ki where he got a bunch of data, circumference of our head, size of our brain, weight of our gray matter, number of brain fibers, and so on. Like he took a lot of data, he gave ki how, what is the propensity to crime, whatever. Like he started just playing with data, and he figured out that ki you always had a propensity to, there is an average in everything, and there is a probability that you will always with this probability lie at this much distance from the average. So there he defined ki this is the normal distribution, where he started giving a practical approach to all the data that was available to them, and he saw that a lot of places there was this same distribution that was happening. And then he came up with a concept, he came up with two concepts. One was regression to the mean, and he saw that ki any, let's say if you had a system where you could have infinite growth or something like that. So for example, let's say height, your height, you had a 50% chance of being 1 inches higher from your parents, or a 50% chance of being 1 inches lower than your parents. So then there would be a, ऐसे अगर हमेशा बढ़ता जाएगा 1%, अगर हर बार पॉइंट टॉस कर रहे हो तुम, तो जो बंदा बढ़ रहा है उसकी एक इंच हाइट बढ़ती जाएगी धीरे धीरे. There would be one guy who would एक इंच बढ़ के he has reached 10 feet, बट वो ऐसा नहीं होता है क्योंकि he defined there is also a concept of regression to mean that एक मीन established है कि 6 फीट 5.5 is the mean और उससे दूर दूर जाने तक के लिए उतनी रेयरिटी बढ़ती जाएगी कि जितना दूर जाते होगे उतनी रेयर इवेंट होगा और एक टाइम के बाद तुम्हारा रुक जाएगा. तो द हाईएस्ट गाय कैन नॉट बी 100 feet. द हाईएस्ट मैन वुड ऑलवेज बी लाइंग बिटवीन 7-8 feet एंड जितना ज्यादा ऑब्जर्वेशन जितने ज्यादा लोग पैदा होते जाएंगे वो नंबर उतना बढ़ता जाएगा बट दैट वुड बी अ वेरी रेयर इवेंट. फिर उसके बाद उन्होंने वो डिफाइन किया रिग्रेशन टू द मीन एंड दे डिफाइन कोरिलेशन कोफिशिएंट. दैट्स व्हेन कि वो आया कि कोरिलेशन कैसे एग्जिस्ट करता है एंड हाउ डज इट पोर्ट्रे द नंबर्स दैट आर मूविंग. फिर कुछ नहीं हुआ 1800 ये सब चले गए एंड देन आइंस्टीन was a next guy who did this who made a big leap in terms of putting that whole central to putting that whole things into perspective as to what randomness actually is. So in 1905 he just started observing the Brownian motion, that if you put a particle inside a liquid, how random are their movements of that particle, how they collide anymore. Like the same way for if you leave some gas molecules in a room, in an empty room, how do they collide with each other and where do they go. And they figured out that it was random. When you look at individual particles, you felt that everything that was happening was random, but then when you looked at the whole room as a whole, when you like went out of that thing, when you took a sample space not from a perspective of an individual particle but from a whole room's perspective, when you just shifted your frame of reference, you just found an order in everything. So we always say, for example, we think that we see that life started because of chance and because of a randomness, because when we think it from that first person perspective, हमें लगता है कि ये तो possible नहीं है. But when in all systems what we see is that how does randomness lead to a certain order when you look at it from a different relative perspective. No one has figured out like how that happens. He just got up with a theory that from individual perspective is different, that it seems random but there is always an order to those molecules that are there. So now it comes to, so that was the last thing that happened with randomness. And then with quantum theory they figure out that there were actually random events that happen in nature in terms of like the position and the velocity of particles which they can't determine. So now till now the only definition of randomness that we have is quantum particles not giving us the exact location and giving us probabilistic locations. So for example, when I was fascinated, like when I used to play poker, I used to think कि poker stars कैसे generate करता होगा, like दो random cards, अगर तुम कोई भी software use कर रहे हो, how do you know that it's random? Like it always deals with that. So then I saw कि how poker stars does it. मतलब how poker stars, what it does is it actually throws a quantum particle on a slide and then it calculates the probability of it hitting on the back side with, like it actually takes quantum probability and then puts that probability adds that probability to your mouse movements, to your individual number of clicks and how you are moving your mouse in like centimeters and millimeters, and then multiplies different numbers and then gets a random number to shuffle your cards. And it had done a lot of experiments, after which it find out that any software turns out not random unless we use the nature's approach of what they define in quantum physics. So the quantum physics is the only completely random process that they have found till now. Baki सब में you always find a pattern and you always do, but that is the only random thing which there will. And if something is not random, then you always find a pattern. मतलब वो that has always been there. So I think like 1 hour will be done. So if you guys want me to continue, I can like go on. Otherwise, we can like conclude.
We have reached 1900, and I guess we have reached 1920. If you can walk us through next 100 years, that will be fine, I guess.
So मतलब अभी तो उसके बाद तो कुछ भी नहीं हुआ, क्वांटम फिजिक्स के बाद ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं कि in terms of कि ये वो. But next I want to talk about कि how randomness affects our lives. Like how does it affect us personally? Like we looked at how we kept on getting to know new things about randomness and about chances, about like why things happen and about correlation and causation. But now is the main topic is basically कि how all these things affects us on an individual level. So there it was. So for example, the first thing that you would consider in terms of randomness is just you being here in this world. It's such a rare event for you to exist. Like for you to exist, your thousands of generations, your you didn't have to, like your parents had to survive among like wars and different droughts and everything, and they had to come out. You read things about 40 million people died in a 25% of the people died in like the European plague, but you still survived. You are still here. That makes it a rare event. Like the world exists, that makes it a rare event. So we first have to look at ki how rarity defines ki of something's existence, and how rare events shouldn't be looked at by the lens of ki it's because of the individual's ability. They can also be looked at the effects of random variables that define a person's, that defines a. So for example, he gives an example of, let's say we define a sequence of 10 to power 1 million zeros and ones. Okay? When you determine when you see that sequence, you will have wait one second. You will have 10 non-overlapping subsequences of 1 million consecutive zeros. Now you have such a long data, and when you see that 1 million zeros together, you will probably, when you're running that software, you will say that, oh, this is not random. ये क्या आ रहा है, ये तो हमेशा ये वो, like how can there be 1 million random 1 million consecutive zeros in a number? But that's what we fail to recognize, is that when you have the number of trials are so much, and there is like an infinite, almost infinite levels of trial, any pattern that comes can be a result of, and a lot of mathematical studies and statistical studies say that it is a result of randomness by different variables that are not in our control, than it is the result of our will to achieve that result or something. So when Apple faced this problem, so Apple had this problem called, when they shuffled those songs. When they shuffled songs, a lot of people started finding patterns. Even after shuffling, they used to shuffle कि एक आर्टिस्ट का गाना दूसरे आर्टिस्ट के पहले आता है, एक आर्टिस्ट का गाना दूसरे आर्टिस्ट के बाद आता है. तो they started complaining कि ये random नहीं है यार. They were random, it was random, but people just thought that कि randomization में pattern नहीं मिलेगा. जो random है उसमें pattern नहीं है, और जहाँ pattern है वो random है. तो जहाँ पैटर्न है वहां हम कॉज ढूंढते हैं, और जो हमें रैंडम दिखता है वहां पे हम, अगर हमें पैटर्न मिल जाता है, हम बोलते हैं कि वो रैंडम नहीं है. हमें रैंडमनेस और पैटर्न के बीच का जो रिलेशन है, वी नेवर लाइक रिकॉग्नाइज दैट. देन एप्पल हैड टू एक्चुअली चेंज इट्स algorithm, shuffling algorithm, to make it less random for it to feel more random. So that's what like Steve Jobs said ki, like less random to make feel random. We had to do that because of how our intuition is so fucked anyway. So a similar concept occurs in, like, if you take mutual funds, for example. So if you take mutual funds, there would be people. So I'll give you 2-3 examples in mutual funds. There was this one guy who said that I have a secret formula of determining my stocks, and that secret formula of betting on the stocks whether it will be up or down next year, and that I will not tell the people that formula, and then let's see whether that formula is correct or not. 12 years down the line, he was correct. 15 years down the line, he was correct. He had one failure, then he was again correct for 10-12 years earlier. In the end, it was a huge controversy. In the end, he said what he used as his strategy was, in every year he used to see that an American team or a non-American team will win this Super Bowl, and if the American team wins, he used to bet on positive, and if a non-American team wins, he used to bet on negative. So he was using a random approach, and still, if he would have said in like a lot of technical terms that I am using this formula and ye formula, wo formula, a lot of people would have been convinced कि this guy actually has some innate ability. Abhi recently there was a reality show in Europe where they did stock picks using 6 different people. One was a professional stock picker, one was some random teenager who didn't know anything about the company, one was some social media influencer, again, who didn't know anything about the companies that were there in the stock market, and one they put one was an astrologer, and one they put a random cow shitting on a square of 6 stocks, and whichever stocks that cow picked was considered to be bought and like to be put into the portfolio. And in the end, after a 6-month period, when they realized who did better, cow came second, and that social media influencer came first, the stock picker came third, and then the astrologer came the last. So how can you be a stock picker, professional stock picker, and lose to a cow shitting randomly on on the floor. So that was when they make people understand कि a lot of things that happen are random. And so personally for me, that's why I just don't consider people's achievements, extraordinary achievements, to be the result of their ability. That's why I read less about people rather than the ideas that they've had, is just because that uh, a lot of random variables affect people reaching where they are in terms of when it comes to extraordinary performances. So that is there. So ये हुआ कि stock markets में they started figuring out, and they started figuring out in like sports and everything कि how we have random events. And then when they analyzed these different events, these different stock markets and ये वो, अभी तो we are considering कि सबके अलग अलग abilities होती है, but what the mathematical uh, uh, evaluation told them was कि everything that was happening in the system was random. कि अगर साल में 1.6% लोग एक्सीडेंट में मरते हैं तो 1.6% लोग ही मरेंगे. तो उन्होंने बोला कि फॉर एग्जांपल हम ये निकालते हैं कि लोग एक साल में 10,000 किलोमीटर ड्राइविंग करते हैं, ठीक है, मीन अपना होता है 10,000 किलोमीटर ड्राइविंग करते हैं. एक बंदे को इस साल ज्यादा ट्रैवल करना होगा, हो सकता है एक बंदे को उस साल ज्यादा ट्रैवल करना हो सकता है इस साल में 8,000 किलोमीटर ट्रैवल कर रहा हूँ, हो सकता है नेक्स्ट ईयर में 20,000 किलोमीटर ट्रैवल कर रहा हूँ. तो ऐसा 10,000 एवरेज आता है. बट उन्होंने बोला नेक्स्ट ईयर भी, मतलब नेक्स्ट ईयर भी अगर इफ देयर इज नो सिग्निफिकेंट चेंज इन टर्म्स ऑफ लाइक द overall people traveling more by cars and everything, irrespective of how chaotic a person's traveling history seems out to be, क्योंकि मैं हर बार सेम उस पर ट्रैवल नहीं करूंगा, बट स्टिल द नेक्स्ट ईयर इट विल बी सिमिलर कि वो 10,000 में 1.6% ये एक्सीडेंट्स होंगे. और अगर 10,000 किलोमीटर ट्रैवल हुआ था तो 10,000 से 9,000 से 11,000 किलोमीटर ये ट्रैवल होगा. लाइक इट्स so this thing so predictable when you look at things from the outside perspective. There was this one guy who was hailed as some Miller guy who was hailed as the greatest money manager of the 1990s. He was the fund manager of the decade by Morningstar. He was the most influential person in like investing in around early 2000s and he had a 14-year streak, and then which analysts said that had a chance of 372,000 to 1. So let me explain what is the odds of 372,000 to 1. If we had singled out Bill Miller, if I say that I am going to become the most successful stockbroker of all time, my chances of doing that is 1 out of 372,000. But when you run this model on thousands of stock pickers who are trying to be the best, just by chance alone, your analysis would tell you that there is a 2 by 3rd chance that someone will come out of those 1,000 who will be successful 14 years down the line. Even if they were randomly picking stocks, even if they're doing coin toss, even if they're watching a show and depending on what's happening in the show, pick their stocks, there will still be a winner, and that winner will still think that it was his ability that led to him being the winner rather than those random factors. But when we see that model comparing those thousands of stock pickers, we realize that it's like अभी paradox आ जाता है यहाँ पे कि whether you attribute some, तो हमेशा end में आ जाता है कि you attribute some to his abilities and you attribute some to random factors, but we always underestimate the effect of random factors from how the outcomes that we have got. So which is because we always like to exercise control. If someone tells us that you randomly, so from my personal story is like I wouldn't have been a coder for like if there were no random events. Like me being in a profession and being in at a position where I am in life is because of a random event where like which was out of my control. That it was just an event where you have just taken decision to get up and go to some random interview which you had never thought of, which field you had never thought of going into, and suddenly someone comes to your room and then picks you up, you were sleeping and you go for an interview and get into that company. So it's when you think of your life decisions, we always find a story as to how we were always in control, how irrespective of what factors we would have faced, we would have somehow come to similar positions in our lives in similar terms. But it's always leads to कि there were a lot of random events. For example, butterfly effect आ जाता है. For example, let's say you had आज रोज तुम कॉफी पीते हो 7 बजे, एंड सडनली एक दिन तुमने कॉफी 7 बजे नहीं बनाई, 7:05 बनाई, तो तुम ऑफिस से निकलने के लिए 5 मिनट लेट हो गए, और 5 मिनट लेट हो गए तो वो कि लेट हुआ, यू मेट समवन ऑन द वे who turned out to be your future like wife or future very good friend or something like that. So even those small variables which are affecting our life are so small that we can't deny the existence of those random variables that come into picture when we are taking our life decisions. So any decision that we have to take any strategy that we make, it's always like governed by a lot of random variables that are there. And it's matlab, people don't know how much to what effect the randomness exists and to what effect so even after they put that a completely random system where no one has any control will still give you the same results where everyone thinks that they have control. So that is the fundamental paradox is coming to a free will debate also. Ki, whether you can control anything or not, and whether your ability to control is in your hand or not, because when we look at the bigger picture, when we look at thousands of you and 10,000s of you, we can easily predict that these many people will do this. And if we can predict that out of 10,000 people 1,000 will do this, then those thousands doing that, are they in control or not? Are they doing it out of their own this thing, or are circumstances making them do it? And if they are doing it on their own accord, why can't that number not be 2,000? Why it is always defined as 1,000? So if that is the fundamental paradox that comes into statistics and data when you look at like how things are. Okay. So that is like he gives different examples. For example, Bruce Willis, he was like a failed actor. He struggled for a long time and he got rejected a ton of times. And people thought that he's like, if Bruce Willis before being successful would have you would have met and you would have just laughed and gave him a statistic on how many number of people succeed in film industry. Like that is generally how we feel कि कोई बंदा मिलता है रैंडम, हम लोग बोलते हैं जनरली तुम्हें मूवी स्टार बनने का तो प्रोबेबिलिटी 1/200,000 होता है, तो तुम्हारा तो चांस है ही नहीं, तुम्हारा चांस नहीं है इफ यू वी ओनली कंसीडर यू, बट कोई होगा जिसका चांस होगा ना, वो कोई जो लोगों को दिखता है तो लोग बोलते हैं कि वो अपनी एबिलिटी की वजह से। तो ब्रूस विलिस हमेशा फेल हुआ। एक दिन वो रैंडमली किसी इवेंट के लिए अपनी गर्लफ्रेंड को मिलने के लिए वेंट टू डिफरेंट स्टेट, जहां वो उसको किसी रैंडम कास्टिंग डायरेक्टर ने देख लिया एंड ही सेड दैट कम टू एन ऑडिशन। वहां पे फाइनल हो चुके थे एक्टर्स, बट ही गेव द ऑडिशन, ही गॉट इनटू एंड ब्रूस विलिस बिकेम। और जब वो बन गया तब लोगों ने कहा ये तो हमेशा इसमें कोई स्पेशल बात थी, सच अ गुड एक्टर, ये वो सच अ गुड एक्टर, तो लोगों को पहले क्यों नहीं पता चला। Same way Stephen King, he's a good, like a really famous author. He did an experiment. He started writing under a pseudonym. उसने अपने books लिखने चालू किए under like different name, which no one knew कि whether he was writing, and his books were flop. So what does it say about Stephen King's ability or his inability to be a good author, and what does it say about the random factors that influence Stephen King being as famous as he is? So that is like what the whole this thing. So in even NY Times did such an experiment. They sent 20 manuscripts, they sent different manuscripts to some 20 publishers, and these manuscripts had been had won Pulitzer Prize and Nobel Prize. Like this is a book by V.S. Naipaul who had won Nobel Prize in literature and was sent to those publishers, and out of 20 all but one were rejections. Like even for the books that had won Pulitzer Prize and that had won Nobel Prize, they were rejected by 19 out of 20 professionals. So that's when we see how weak a link is between the outcome and the ability that goes behind it, and how variables interact with each other to lead to a final outcome, which tells us ki which doesn't mean that there is no ability, which just tells us ki the number of attempts that we take and the number of opportunities that we seek is the only thing that that determines whether we'll be successful or not. Because the just going by 2 trials, 3 trials, even a monkey can be successful. It's just that how do we persevere throughout these attempts that determines in longer term what is our ability. If we are an 80 or we are an 85 or we are an 90, if we do just get a 90 streak for 3 times, that doesn't say that our ability is more than 80. If we get 70, that doesn't say that it's worse, but it's just that if we think about randomness, a lot of things in the society would have been different. But so we should always like it, just when you read about it, it just makes you humble and makes you be more humble about the things that are not in your control, and and makes you minimize those by repeated number of attempts. I think, yeah.
Shubham, you're talking about Benford theory, right? When you're talking about the natural numbers, it was Benford's law, right?
Benford's law, yeah.
Yeah. So what I was saying at that point was there's a law called Zipf's law, from which it is said that Benford law is a special case of that. And what it says is कि if you see all the natural progressions, जैसे number of alphabet that occurs, so E occurs most of the time, then T, then A, T, मतलब other alphabets. So the frequency is proportional, inversely proportional to the rank. So let's say if A occurs 1 lakh times, so then if second rank is B, then B would be 1 lakh by 2, C would be 1 lakh by 3. So it is said that Benford's law was derived, or a special case of this Zipf's law. And this is very common. This happens at a lot of places.
Yeah.
Alphabet being one of them and numbers being the second of them. So it's hard to understand why one occurs more than two, but you would notice that one has, let's say, X probability, then the second one would have X by 2, third would have X by 3, and so on and so forth. So that's...
But no one knows why that is happening. It's just that
Yeah.
we know that it is happening, but
just natural. Yeah.
natural कैसे define होता है, that is what people...
Other thing, because so this is my favorite topic, by the way. So I was like geeking out whenever you were saying those things. So one quote which I read very recently, and I think I would want to keep it with myself to my grave. It was around statistics and like how stats and around how people can manipulate it. Like you can interpret it incorrectly. So there was a YouTube comment. It was not even some good source. The comment was, if you torture the data long enough, it will confess. Dude, it was so amazing. Like imagine what he's saying is कि आप उसको किसी भी projection से देख लो, it will say something about in that direction. So it's very interesting कि how we perceive data and understand कि ये randomness है और उसकी true probability क्या है internal. जो variance आप इतने time से समझा रहे थे कि 70 to 90 होगा, 80 अगर है, तो this is variance. So you need to understand कि how these things are very important.
तो वो एक्सपेरिमेंट होता है ना, मंकी कॉइन टॉस कर रहे हैं कि एक जगह ऐसे 1000 मंकी हैं और 1000 मंकी एक दूसरे से कॉइन टॉस कर रहे हैं. एक मंकी उसमें से ऐसा होगा जो ऐसे लगातार 10 कॉइन टॉस जीता होगा, मतलब, और वो उस मंकी को लगेगा ही इज एन एक्सपर्ट इन कॉइन टॉसिंग. बट अगर इफ आई मेक अ मैथमेटिकल मॉडल कि सब कुछ रैंडम है, मंकी के पास कोई एबिलिटी है ही नहीं, इट गिव्स मी द सेम रिजल्ट एज all the monkeys thinking that they have an ability. That is the main paradox कि actual ability हम तो अभी भी consider करते हैं कि ability है, कि there is an विराट कोहली है अच्छा क्रिकेटर, मतलब उसमें ability है चाहे जितना randomness डाल दो, but एक विराट कोहली exist करेगा in a history, वो भी given है. अब वो विराट कोहली कैसे given है, surety कैसे है कि एक विराट कोहली exist करेगा अगर विराट कोहली is like unique or something, मतलब बहुत ही वैसा है. There is a huge paradox in terms of...
And anyone who wants to learn really, really well about probability, and so there's this online course which I did, and it is the hardest course ever. But agar
for you, right?
Not. I will pay you. I will give you lunch treat if you complete it. I have completed it once, and I'm going to do it second time. It's by John.
If you are completing it for the second time, it cannot be the hardest course.
John, it comes in advance. It's the only maths course जो edX पे advance पे tagged है, and it's by John Sikilis, who is very famous, and like he is attributed to dynamic programming and many other things. And
नाम क्या?
So you should try it, and you would learn a lot about the facts that Shubham was telling कि ये सारी चीजें होती है कि आपको लगता है intuitively ये होगा, but जब आप actually calculate करते हो तो कुछ और ही निकलता है. It's very...
Resham wants to add something. Resham, go ahead.
Okay, so I have one question about the previous premise कि कुछ numbers हमें बहुत frequently दिख रहे हैं. Like you mentioned कि the digit 1 occurs as many times, digit 2 occurs 18% of the times. So do you think it is possible that we are looking at very limited cases and उन पे भी we already have a bias in our mind कि अब हमें जो भी number दिखेगा, I'll specifically see कि 1 है या नहीं उसमें. I'll automatically focus just on the ones.
No, so if let's say, that's why I gave different examples. Ki let's say you define the most obscure numbers that are exist. Matlab you pick a forest and you say that I will count the number of leaves on each tree. That will also follow this. If you take the stock market data of the daily closure price of last 100 years, any data that you pick, any naturally occurring data that you pick follows that Benford's law. So it's just that मतलब it just occurs. मतलब we also don't know हम अपने, if we would have made it up, that making it up makes us feel that we are not in control, then we wouldn't have done that. मतलब वही है कि any number data set that we pick, a lot of data sets follow that, so we don't know why is that happening or why does that happen, but it's like just there.
Just to add another example, Resham, so like as I was saying कि जो alphabet occurrence वाला example है, like E occurs the most, then T, and then others. So this this data is taken from Google, searching from a lot of books. So we have analyzed like millions and billions of words and then found this frequency. And it's common in every book. Like you take that general data and check if the books follow it. So the vocabulary is now defined, which is basically the natural language is defined in a way that you'll see this pattern. So it emerge on even a larger data set.
तो नंबर में भी ऐसा हो सकता है कि यार maths is defined that way that we have, so probably the world works on logarithmics, like in some ways in logs, and we have a 10 base. That's why our rate of growth keeps on going slower as we move from 1 to 9 or ego. So that's why our revenue of a company, it takes a longer time for it to grow from 1 billion to 2 billion than from 9 billion to 10 billion.
Manish, which pattern are you talking about when you said that Google search है, 80 books है? So what pattern are we talking about here?
So like you're mentioning about the Benford theorem, right? So basically you're saying that some numbers occur. So you're saying that there might be a chance कि हमने बहुत छोटे set पे देखा हो, and we are looking at it with a bias. I'm saying that people have done these experiments on a very large scale. Like they have looked at a huge amount of numbers and alphabet and characters, and they found this pattern. And these are naturally occurring patterns.
But alphabet or characters के case में, don't you think that language and grammar?
It's a
सारा numbers. I agree. Numbers का I agree. It cannot be predetermined.
I almost
वैसा vowels होगा, vowels के ज़्यादा ही होंगे, मतलब हमेशा वो, तो that is also there. Numbers में थोड़ा.
That I agree, and that's always the case. कि vowels are like taken as a base case for this conversation. But if you notice, like other things, let's say golden ratio, no one would ever imagine that golden ratio is such a big thing in nature, but it just is. No one can prove why golden ratio and why this makes sense, but it's part of the universe.
That I agree with. That I'm totally aligned.
In numbers, I sort of agree with what Shubham was saying. Like maybe we think in terms of bases of 10, and if we think in terms of 10, we would see a lot of ones and maybe a lot of zeros. So there can be some inherent pattern which we might have introduced, because numbers we हमही ने बनाई है. मतलब they exist in the universe, but we sort of created them. So there's a likelihood कि वो भी उस हमारे
लैंग्वेज वाला कॉन्सेप्ट नंबर्स पे भी आ सकते हैं, क्योंकि मैथ्स तो हमारा बस एब्स्ट्रैक्ट वो है.
लेकिन मैथ्स तो यूनिवर्सल है, मतलब मैथ्स इन्वेंट, मतलब हम समझ पाए, लेकिन इट्स एप्लीकेबल.
मैथ्स यूनिवर्सल रिप्रेजेंटेशन है. मैथ्स इज नॉट अ थिंग इन इटसेल्फ, इट्स जस्ट रिप्रेजेंटेशन. अभी हमें पता भी नहीं है कि परफेक्ट 1 क्या होता है, हमें पता नहीं 0 क्या होता है. 0 कुछ नहीं होता है. What is absence of something? There is nothing that we have in front of us. That is absence of something. So we represent, मतलब maths are just symbols that we use to represent, same as language. वो symbols में there is a pattern which we don't know whether it's created by us or whether it's a function of the system that we created. That पूरे maths में ही ये concept है कि अगर ये वो ऐसा वो होगा, तो हमने जब बाहर से देखे, बाहर के system analyze किए, तो ये pattern आता है. But that pattern exists. It can be a fault of the system.
Exactly. What if maths is our language, like 1 to 10, ये सब हमने बोला हुआ है, but in reality maybe वो numbers बहुत random हो, but क्योंकि हमने ये 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 labels दे दिए, तो हमें वो patterns दिखने लग गए. जैसे हमने A B C D up to Z दिया है, labels हमने दिए हैं, तो हमें वो patterns दिखने लग गए. Maybe maths is broader than these digits or like these characters, and शायद हमने जो pattern दिया उसके वजह से fit हो रहा. Like this is a broad theory. Not saying this is coming from any ways, but like I'm thinking of whatever I read about characters and examples.
काफी interesting होता है. Benford's law is very interesting. I've shared the wiki article. जो मैं 1-2 दिन जब मैंने पहली बार सुना था, तो I was mindfuck कि ये कैसे, और IRS actually इसको use करता है to like find.
That was fun. इसको चैनल पे भी शेयर कर दीजिएगा प्लीज,
क्योंकि तुम एक्चुअली जब अगर नंबर मेकअप कर रहे होते हो, तुम रैंडम बोलोगे कि मैं रैंडम नंबर्स सोच रहा हूँ और बना रहा हूँ, वो रैंडम नंबर्स विल नॉट फॉलो दिस लॉ. बट कोई और उठाओगे कहीं से भी रैंडम नंबर्स दैट फॉलो दिस लॉ. सो देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन नेचुरल रैंडमनेस वर्सेस योर परसीव्ड रैंडमनेस दैट यू थिंक इज रैंडम. तो वही उन्होंने एप्पल वालों को भी वो करना पड़ता है, उनको लेस रैंडम करना पड़ता है, क्योंकि हमारा डेफिनेशन ऑफ रैंडम इज नॉट दैट ग्रेट.
प्रोग्रामिंग में तो सूडो रैंडम होता है. देयर इज अ कांसेप्ट ऑफ सूडो रैंडम. लाइक
हमारे लिए आता है एस्टिमेट्स देना, हमारे लिए कितना डिफिकल्ट होता है, लाइक इन टर्म्स ऑफ हाउ मच टाइम विल दिस प्रोजेक्ट टेक. इट इज इम्पॉसिबल. दिस इज द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम इन सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग which no one has been able to solve, because there are so many random variables and we think that we are in control. That's why we don't consider those random variables, क्योंकि आएगा तो हम control में है ये वो. But no one wants to lose the control. That is that gives randomness its power.
Not every variable is random, don't you think so?
Not every variable is random. You have an innate ability that if you have to only write a script to populate data from here to here, you can know that 90% of the times, 95% of the times, you would not have no errors in that. But then when it comes to, so that define that definition, that task or that system determines how much random variables will be there. For example, if a project is of 2 weeks, there will be lesser random variables, but if a project is of 2 months, there will be more random variables. So each system or each project is determining what factors can come in terms of what random. So example, let's say you're planning something and you don't consider, it's not random. So if you consider all variables, it might not be random. Let's say you also take a probability that there is this probability that a teammate falls sick, he wouldn't come for 2 days or 3 days, uski probability nikal ke you have put in into your model of estimates कि अच्छा उसका ये effect पड़ेगा. तो let's like random variables को जो हमें random लगते थे वो random इसलिए है क्योंकि हमें पता नहीं है वो variables.
Do you think a better term would be unknown unknowns?
Yeah, it's unknown, uncertainty, uncertain variables, unknown variables, random.
हम अपने डिसीजन लेते हैं नोन नोन्स पे.
Yeah, और randomness जो हम सोच रहे हैं ना वही अलग होता है. मतलब random is not something that you can't predict, that should be unpredictable. मतलब वो जब हम shuffle भी करते हैं songs तो हमें लगता है कि हर बार एकदम अलग ही combination बनना चाहिए, तो वो random हमें लगेगा. कि अगर same combination आ गया तो हमें लगेगा it's not random. But pattern also is like a concept that comes under randomness only. मतलब we think that randomness doesn't have pattern, that random variables are not known variables, or like random things are that unknown variables are only random variables. Randomness के अंदर भी there is like a pattern which is always there.
Happy shuffling fact is like the 52 factorial is 10 is for 67, and 14 billion years in seconds is only 10 is for 17. So like the point is we still feel that we got our same pack, but it's highly unlikely because 10 is for 57 is much bigger than 10 is for 60.
सोच का स्केल वेरी करता है ना जब हम रैंडमनेस एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं किसी चीज से.
हाँ,
तभी हमारे परसीव करने में दिक्कत होती है उस चीज को.
नहीं, and the point is we see little patterns like 13 cards में या 52 cards में बस थोड़े से पैटर्न देख के you almost feel like अच्छा 10 कार्ड मैच कर रहे हैं तो आई थिंक मेरा सेम ही डेक आया है. बट द पॉइंट इज 10 कार्ड
सबसे पहले है और उसमें से उसके बाद सिर्फ एक कार्ड इधर से उधर रख दिया वो भी रैंडम है. हां, इट इज दैट द प्रोसेस, जिस प्रोसेस से वो कार्ड इधर से उधर हुआ है, अगर वो अननोन है तो वो रैंडम है. सो इट्स लाइक any variable, any change in configuration that is determined by the factors that you can't fathom or you can't, or it's out of your control, उसको random बोलते हैं. तो randomness भी हमारी definition है. मतलब there's no nothing like here.
Mathematically कुछ constant नहीं होता. In world of probability, constant is a random variable which takes a particular value all every time. So they call it a random variable.
And even then there is no such thing as pure random.
Yeah,
pure random, but quantum physics में they still think that it's purely random
because there's no pattern that could be.
That is the only thing.
और एक चीज और, जैसे you mentioned that uniform distribution, कि अगर कोई टेस्ट हो रहा है उसके अंदर हम स्कोर्स देखते हैं तो the scores follow a normal distribution. कहीं ना कहीं वो बीच में लाई कर रहा है, साथ में outliers and negative. But then when you focus on a subset of students, like for example the ones who have to prepare for post graduation, you expect them कि हाँ वो पढ़कर आएंगे, वो ढंग से चाटेंगे सब कुछ. But even उनके scores में भी चाहे, but don't you think कि जो variables हैं जो ये वाली performance impact कर रहे हैं, जो score है, they are just much more than कि simply इन्होंने post graduation करनी है.
हाँ वही, मतलब मैं वही बोल रहा था कि वो बहुत ही difficult है. तो that's why फॉलो करता है, बट हम बस एस्टिमेट करते हैं कि इस वजह से होता होगा, बट
मतलब हम कभी पूरे वेरिएबल्स ले ही नहीं पाते. का एक पार्ट ये है कि रैंडम इम्पैक्ट, जब व्हेन अगर तो एक बंदा आइसोलेशन में है, यू कैन स्टिल टू एन एक्सटेंट प्रेडिक्ट कि वो क्या होगा,
हो जाएगा, पूरे वेरिएबल्स ले लेंगे.
बट इफ यू आर इन अ सोसाइटी, तो जितनी एंटिटीज से आप इंटरेक्ट कर रहे हो, उन एंटिटीज से जो इंटरेक्ट कर रहा है, उनसे जो इंटरेक्ट कर रहा है, उन सबका इम्पैक्ट आप पे आता है. तो एक जो बेसिक एग्जांपल उसका हो सकता है कि व्हाई दो स्टूडेंट्स, इवन द सिलेक्टिव सबसेट, उनका भी नॉर्मल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन क्यों आया, कि उनका जो लाइफस्टाइल है, उनका जो रिटेनिंग है, उन्होंने जो खाना खाया, जितना उनको नींद आई, जितनी उनको हो गई, क्योंकि ये सारे, और टीचर ने इवैल्यूएट किया कि ऑब्जेक्टिव जो टेस्ट होते हैं उसमें नॉर्मल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन आपको कम मिलेगी एज कम्पेयर टू सब्जेक्टिव. क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं इफ आई रीड अ लॉन्ग आंसर देन आई हैव एन आइडियल आंसर इन माय माइंड, उससे जितना डिबेट होगा कहीं ना कहीं मैं इवैल्यूएट भी गड़बड़ करूंगी उस चीज में, मेरे माइंड में है कि ये परफेक्ट आंसर है तो मैं इसको 10 आउट ऑफ 10 दूंगी, इसके अलावा जो है ना ये तो बेकार है इसको छाड़ दूंगी। तो इवन द इवैल्यूएशन इज नॉट परफेक्ट आई फील। तो जो आपका मेजरमेंट वाला पॉइंट था,
और फिर मेनली वो भी आता है, अगर मान लो मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चंस हैं इन दिस एग्जाम और लोग रैंडम आंसर्स मार्क करके आ रहे हैं तो भी वो नॉर्मल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ही बनता है।
हाँ।
दैट इज द इंटरेस्टिंग पार्ट।
So the only thing you can do better for like selective student is कि आप उनका variance कम कर सकते हो. Nothing else you can do. Random वो normal distribution तो follow करने वाला है. Just can't take that away.
क्योंकि वही ना हम एक पोर्शन कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, वी कैन नॉट कंट्रोल एवरीथिंग जो उसको वो वाली ऑप्शन टिक करने में।
But if you had that much computing power, then you would exactly know, right? Then if what if you could just like process all the variables, p np true होता मतलब ये वो you could solve traveling salesman वही है, मतलब this is the paradox I think जहाँ पे रुका हुआ है like our whole research and like humanity की actual randomness, quantum physics के बाद भी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि randomness होती है।
Cool. I guess on that note, thank you guys. First, thank you for everybody's time. Thank you, especially Shubham, for
Thank you,
this
Shubham. Wow.
enlightening session. I have 6 pages of notes. I will be asking you follow-up questions soon. I guess thank you. Cheers.
Okay.
Cheers.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.